Up in the Air is about a traveling businessman, played by George Clooney, who travels around the country firing people for a living. And my character comes in and wants to change the way that their company does business so that no one flies anymore. And so we don't get along very well at first because he's sort of found a very suitable way of life for himself, being completely isolated. And I would sort of force him to have human interaction for the first time in a long time. I mean, the script overall is beautiful, and I think the really special thing for me was the idea of a character who's female and 23 and has no romantic storyline, and her character doesn't revolve around a boy, which is incredibly rare for screenplays. And she's just sort of complicated and messed up and has this incredible, journey, but at no point does it involve a dude. It's terrifying at first, knowing that one of the most famous people in the world is going to work with you every day, or you're going to work with him every day. But he sort of goes out of his way to make people comfortable because, he sort of makes everyone uncomfortable. I think has an incredible skill for making people feel like you've known him forever and it's okay to just be yourself. I know that he's talked about the idea that Natalie is based on a lot of really, really intelligent women that he has fallen in love with over the years, including his wife, and that he has found these women to be frustrated by, being the smartest person in the room all the time, and then to eventually find out that everything isn't sort of going to work out for them the way that they expected to, particularly in their personal lives, that they've been so ambitious and they've done all the right things and have been working so hard their whole lives only to kind of find out that they might not be able to have it all. I think that, eventually she sort of figures out that what she thinks she wants is probably not the best thing for her. But I think that's one of the things that makes this movie really special, is that it's about, people who think they have it all figured out, and then over the course of the movie, discover that their respective philosophies are kind of BS for the most part, and kind of confronting that for the first time. So I think Natalie starts out thinking that she knows exactly what she wants, and then really realizing that she has no idea. Well, I mean, obviously he has a romantic interest in Alex, and I think that he finds me incredibly annoying, but eventually is sort of forced to be a father figure to me and sort of takes on a paternal role because I kind of break down in the movie. I start out being his nemesis and then sort of, become a little girl in a way over the course of the film. And he's sort of, but, both of those characters are sort of challenging him to grow up. When you're working with Jason Reitman and George Clooney and Vera Farmiga, and, you've never been in a film on this scale, and you've never been the youngest one on set before, it sort of feels like you're constantly trying to prove yourself. I was sort of every day leading up to filming, which was unfortunately months, I was just certain that today was going to be the day that they call me and fire me and I'm not going to be a part of the film. The fittings and the camera tests and the table read, just every day I was like, today's the day, I'm totally getting fired. I have no business in this film. I'm from Maine and I'm in a movie with George Clooney. This makes no sense. But, then you get on set and Jason and George and Vera are so cool and you just feel like you've known them forever and, you feel like you have a place working on a film. He's incredibly intelligent and incredibly intuitive, and he's very, very focused. And he's sort of really, really specific, which is great. And I think the kind of wonderful thing about it is he stays so quiet and so focused sort of by the monitor, and then he has the most distinctive laugh, and it's one of those laughs you kind of can't fake. So when you hear the Reitman laugh, you know that you've done something right. We shot the scenes where we fire J.K. Simmons, and George fires Zach Galifianakis and Tamala Jones. And actually, what they did is they shot the real people. They shot them documentary style, and George and I were not in the room for that, and they edited that in later. And at one point, actually, because they were doing that while we were filming, and I think the people didn't really know that it was for a film. They didn't know that it was George Clooney, or I think that's how they got such genuine performances out of them, that they were just shooting it like it was a documentary. And and at one point I was sort of thinking like, oh, should I ask to sit in on some of this so I kind of get an idea? It was my sort of, method acting moment. And then I sort of realized how inappropriate it would be for me to use people's real life experience as my kind of actory research. So I was just sort of surprised and interested to see how it edited together. I think, obviously I think it edited together quite beautifully if you thought we were actually in the room. It's mostly about, the decision to grow up, or the decision to, connect or to reassess your life, which is probably the most uncomfortable thing for people to do. Jason had been writing the script for something like 6 years, and it was only when we had this economic downturn that he got it made, and all of a sudden it sort of took on all these new meanings and had all these new layers. But at the end of the day, it's not a film about the recession, or it's not a film about job loss, and so the ideas of growing up and the ideas of connecting with people and reassessing what your priorities are still the same, and it just has this kind of a sort of more emotional and melancholy backdrop. Vera's awesome. I think I was more intimidated by Vera than I was by George, because she plays these women who are so icy and so intelligent, and I was sort of terrified of her. And I didn't actually get to work with her until the very end of the shoot, when we sort of meet in Miami. It was like the last week of shooting, and I'd been working with George for so long that it felt like this kind of new blood. And she's so playful and so warm. She's so different from most of the characters that she plays, that it was a blast and so fun to have another chick on set. I'd probably go home a lot more. I barely get home. I travel all the time, and the idea of making a trip from Los Angeles to Portland, Maine is sort of exhausting. So I would get home more.